Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and we together are the Me Fam. Today I'm sharing my pork rib recipe with you. So it's a bourbon pork rib recipe. So to start off with, we're going to be making our dry rub. The dry rub is what you want to marinate your meat in. So we start off with 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of mustard powder, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of chili powder. Now this is optional, you don't have to add it in. You can add it in if you want a bit of heat. If you don't want the heat, leave it out. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of allspice and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. You want to mix that all together, give it a stir, give it a shake. Then what we're going to do is get our pork ribs out. We're going to put our pork ribs into a container and we're going to put our dry rub over that. So when you put your pork ribs into the container, you want to pop them in so they're going to fit all together, and make sure you pop the meat side up to start with, and that's the side you're going to want to put your dry rub on. Get your dry rub, sprinkle it over the top. Then what we're going to do, flip it over, sprinkle over the back, give it a good rub and massage it into your meat. This is how it's going to get all the flavors and goodness into it. Then once we've done the rub, what you're going to do is flip the ribs over so the meat side is facing to the bottom of your dish, and you want to let these marinate in this dry rub for a minimum 8 hours. Preferably for me, you want to have this in the fridge overnight, so at least 24 hours total time. So what I do is I make it that morning, let it sit in the fridge overnight, and then cook it that night. Before you cook it, you need to pull it out of your fridge a half an hour to an hour before you're going to cook, so the meat can come up to room temperature. This is key because otherwise your meat's going to be very tough when it's going to cook. So now we're going to move on and to make the bourbon barbecue glaze. So what we start off with is 1 brown onion, a tablespoon of crushed garlic and 2 teaspoons of crushed ginger. We're going to let this all emulsify together and simmer in the pan. Not emulsify, just simmer. Bring it up so the onions become a bit translucent. Add some olive oil for some lubrication, about 1.5 tablespoons or 40 grams. Then we're going to add tomato sauce. So you want about 350 grams of tomato sauce, so probably about a half a cup. Then 60 mils of your bourbon, Jack Daniels, whatever bourbon you want to use. I use Jack Daniels. We want to add about 60 mils, so maybe about a quarter of a cup. Then you want to add 50 grams of brown sugar, so that's probably about 2 tablespoons. Again, 60 grams of soy sauce, so about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. 140 grams of honey, so it's about 2/3 of a cup. Then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of salt and a crack of black pepper. So as much black pepper as you want. I wouldn't go too heavy on the pepper, maybe a max of 1 teaspoon. Give that all a stir, let it simmer down and boil up and make a sauce out of that. Once it is all simmered and it thickens, you want it to at least coat the back of your spoon. Once it has coated the back of your spoon, you can kill your heat. Take it off the stove top. Then we're going to go and take it out, transfer it into a container and let that sit in the fridge as well overnight. Oh, and I also forgot to say, you want to add some apple cider vinegar into this as well. Sorry, I add about 50 mils of apple cider vinegar. And honey as well, so 50 grams of honey, so about 2 tablespoons. So it's the next day now. So what I'm just doing here is getting the tray set up for baking. So what we do is we line the bottom of the tray with some baking paper, put your rack into the tray, pop your ribs on that, and then cover it with alfoil and let it sit for about an hour. This is how I let it come to room temperature. It's the best way because then you get the air circulating around it and it's not in a closed container that's been in the fridge with the meat. And then also when you're getting your meat out of the container, make sure you get all that good dry rub out of the container and smear it over the top. You don't want to leave any of that behind. So now we're going to pop the ribs into the oven. Now they go into the oven on about 200 degrees. I'll pop up on the screen for you guys now the Fahrenheit of that. They go in there for about 45 minutes. Covered. You want the ribs covered so that the ribs aren't going to burn and get too dry. Then we're going to pull them out, take the cover off, and pop the glaze on it. Now, don't be very, just dump as much glaze, sorry, I forgot the word for it. Dump as much glaze on there as you want. Don't skimp on it, just give it all the goodness you want to give it. Once it is all glazed, we're going to put it back in the oven for another half an hour. 15 minutes increments, sorry. So 15 minutes, pull it out, pop some more glaze on it. Pop it back in for another 15 minutes and let all that glaze get all caramelized in the oven. So total hours of cooking, you're looking at about an hour and a half total of baking and cooking of the ribs. So now the ribs are done, we're just going to plate it up. So I have made some coleslaw up with them, and I also bought this cornbread from an American shop here in Australia, as we don't have cornbread in Australia. So we went to the specialty store to buy some cornbread for this particular meal. You can serve it with whatever you want, but traditionally ribs are served with coleslaw and a bit of cornbread on the side, or some salad. And it's really, really good. I hope you enjoy this recipe, guys. Please give me a thumbs up and a like if you guys like this video, and don't forget to leave any comments below, and also subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.